Welcome to Streaming News Network, Evening Edition, by J. Claude McDaniel. News without the hype and biased reporting. Please like and subscribe.
This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. Pastor Ezra Jean Mingri, a prominent leader of Beijing's underground Zion Church, has been released from prison in China and reunited with his family in Los Angeles after months in detention. The pastor had been arrested in October alongside 17 other church leaders during one of the largest crackdowns on an unregistered Christian congregation in decades. Chinese authorities require worshippers to attend government-approved churches, while Zion Church chose to operate independently. The case gained international attention after President Donald Trump personally asked Chinese President Xi Jinping during a state visit to Beijing to consider Pastor Jin's release. Trump later said President Xi promised to give the request serious consideration. According to the pastor's family, the release came unexpectedly. They expressed gratitude for President Trump's efforts and said they believe the outcome would not have been possible without direct intervention from President Xi. The family also voiced hope that the decision signals improved conditions for people of faith in China and a positive step in relations between the two nations. Pastor Jin's daughter had previously testified before members of Congress, explaining that her father founded Zion Church so Christians could worship freely outside government control. The release is being viewed by many religious freedom advocates as a significant development in an issue that has drawn international attention. This is J. Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. A tragic alligator attack in Central Florida has claimed the life of a 31-year-old California woman. Authorities say Brittany Clark was hiking with her boyfriend and a friend in Little Big Econ State Forest, near Orlando, when the group stopped to cool off in the Econlocache River. Clark was standing in approximately 3 feet of water when an alligator suddenly attacked, biting both of her arms. Her boyfriend immediately called for emergency assistance and reportedly fought to pull her from the animal's grip. First responders arrived quickly, but Clark had suffered critical injuries and died while being transported to the hospital. Wildlife officials have since captured 2 large alligators from the area, measuring approximately 13 feet and 12 feet in length. Both animals have been euthanized, and forensic testing is underway to determine whether either was responsible for the fatal attack. Clark had graduated from high school in Sacramento, California, and had recently been living in the Orlando area, where she worked for a road construction company operating heavy equipment. Family members described her as someone who loved both her work and spending time on the water. Her family is now raising funds to return her remains to California for burial. The investigation into the attack remains ongoing. This is J. Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. Questions are being raised in New York City after reports claimed that temperatures inside several government buildings were significantly cooler than the energy-saving target promoted by Mayor Zohran Mamdani during an ongoing heat emergency. Earlier this week, Mayor Mamdani urged residents to set their air conditioners to 78 degrees Fahrenheit to help reduce strain on the city's electrical grid. He also stated that city-owned buildings were following the same standard by limiting air conditioning, reducing lighting, and shutting down non-essential equipment. However, temperature checks reported inside City Hall and other municipal buildings found that many locations were cooler than the recommended setting, with some readings reportedly as low as 54 degrees Fahrenheit. According to those reports, only a small number of the tested locations were at or above the 78-degree target. The reported differences have prompted criticism from some observers, who argue that public officials should follow the same conservation guidelines being requested of residents. Others note that building temperatures can vary depending on equipment rooms, office locations, ventilation systems, and where measurements are taken. City officials have not publicly addressed the reported temperature readings. As extreme heat continues across the region, the discussion highlights the ongoing challenge of balancing energy conservation with maintaining comfortable and safe public buildings. This is J. Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. A new working paper from the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas is drawing attention for its analysis of how recent unauthorized immigration may have affected the United States housing market. The preliminary study examined immigration court records along with government administrative data to estimate the economic impact of roughly 7 million unauthorized immigrants who entered the country between 2021 and 2024. According to the researchers, the increase in population contributed to higher employment while also increasing demand for housing in markets where supply was already limited. The paper estimates that unauthorized immigration accounted for approximately 30% of the rise in home prices and about 20% of rent increases during that period. Researchers also found little evidence that new home construction expanded quickly enough to meet the added housing demand, creating additional pressure on prices and rental costs in many metropolitan areas. The authors emphasized that the report is a preliminary working paper released for professional review and discussion. They also noted that its conclusions do not necessarily represent the official views of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas or the Federal Reserve System. As economists continue to evaluate the findings, the study is expected to contribute to the broader national debate over immigration, housing affordability, and economic policy. This is Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. Authorities in Raleigh, North Carolina, are investigating a series of violent incidents that followed large 4th of July gatherings over the holiday weekend. Police say more than 5,000 teenagers and young adults gathered in the Glenwood South Entertainment District during the early morning hours on Sunday. According to investigators, multiple fights broke out in the streets, creating what several local businesses described as a chaotic scene. Officers responded to 4 separate shooting incidents between approximately 1:30 and 3:30 in the morning. 9 people were injured in the shootings, although authorities have not released additional information about the victims' conditions. Court records indicate that at least 27 individuals, ranging in age from 18 to 24, now face dozens of criminal charges. The charges include fighting in public, resisting arrest, and assaulting a law enforcement officer. Investigators also reported that one police officer suffered a cut to the arm while breaking up a fight, and another officer was struck during an arrest involving an individual carrying an open container. The investigation remains ongoing as authorities continue reviewing evidence and determining whether additional arrests will be made. This is Claude McDaniel of Streaming News Network. Authorities in Bakersfield, California, are investigating the death of former physician and plastic surgeon Sarwa Aldawari, who was found in a residential swimming pool on Tuesday. The 71-year-old was identified by the Kern County coroner the following day. Police have not released the cause of death or explained how she entered the pool, and investigators have not said whether foul play is suspected. The investigation remains active. Public records indicate that Aldawari had lived on the same street for many years, although authorities have not confirmed whether the home where she was found belonged to her. Aldawari practiced medicine for more than 3 decades, specializing in obstetrics, gynecology, and cosmetic procedures. She most recently worked at a cosmetic surgery clinic in Bakersfield before surrendering her California medical license in 2024. According to state medical board records, the disciplinary action stemmed from a cosmetic procedure performed in 2016 that resulted in a patient's death. The case ultimately led to the surrender of her medical license. Authorities say additional information regarding the circumstances surrounding her death will be released as the investigation progresses. This is Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. Former political activist Kala Walsh is drawing widespread attention after attending funeral ceremonies in Iran for the country's late supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. During an interview with Iranian state media, Walsh described Khamenei as an influential anti-imperialist leader and praised his opposition to the United States and Israel. She also claimed that public support for Iran's government had increased following recent military conflict in the region. Walsh, who previously volunteered on Elizabeth Warren's 2020 presidential campaign and worked on a Boston mayoral campaign, has increasingly aligned herself with pro-Iran positions in recent years. She has also been active in organizations critical of United States foreign policy and has publicly supported several anti-war causes. Her political activities have generated controversy in the past, including an arrest related to vandalism during protests connected to the war in Gaza. She has also faced criticism over statements and activism that opponents describe as anti-Semitic, while supporters have characterized her actions as political protest. The funeral appearance and her public remarks have renewed debate over American activists engaging with foreign governments that have long had adversarial relationships with the United States. This is Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. New financial disclosure reports are renewing debate in Washington over whether elected officials should be allowed to trade individual stocks while serving in public office. Recent filings released by the United States Office of Government Ethics show that President Donald Trump reported thousands of securities transactions between January and March of 2026. The reported total value of those transactions ranges from approximately $220 million to as much as $750 million because federal disclosure forms report asset values in broad ranges rather than exact amounts. The filings were submitted after the reporting deadline, resulting in a $200 late filing penalty. The disclosures have prompted comparisons with trading reports involving the household of former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, whose financial activity has previously drawn public scrutiny and inspired proposed legislation that would prohibit members of Congress and their spouses from trading individual stocks while in office. Current law, including the Stock Act, requires members of Congress and the President to disclose certain financial transactions and prohibits the use of material non-public information for personal gain. However, federal conflict of interest statutes that apply to most executive branch employees do not apply to the President. Supporters of stricter ethics rules argue that broader restrictions would strengthen public confidence in government, while opponents contend that existing disclosure requirements already provide transparency and that public officials retain the right to manage their personal investments within the law. This is Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. Among the many celebrity guests at the wedding of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, one familiar face generated an especially strong reaction online: actor Hugh Grant. Some fans questioned how Grant ended up on the guest list, but the actor and Swift have reportedly developed a friendship over the past 2 years. Their connection began after Grant attended one of Swift's Eras Tour concerts in London with his wife, Anna Eberstein, in 2024. After the show, Grant praised both Swift and Kelce in a social media post, and Swift later responded by saying she had long admired the actor. The friendship also produced a humorous story that Swift later shared publicly. According to her account, Kelce accidentally mistook Anna Eberstein for filmmaker Greta Gerwig and enthusiastically complimented her on directing the film Barbie. Swift later laughed about the misunderstanding, saying everyone handled the mix-up with good humor. Grant and his wife were among the many high-profile guests attending the private ceremony, which also featured appearances by numerous entertainers, athletes, and public figures.
Thank you for listening to Streaming News Network videos and our short reports. Please like and subscribe to our news channel.